Josh and Jesse, Jesse and Josh. Your Mother Ate My Dog is the name of their podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Your Mother Ate My Dog, the podcast. I'm your host, Josh. He's your host, Jesse.
Jesse.
Today we have a special one for you. A movie people have heard of before versus the last two.
Yes.
If you haven't listened to those, I highly recommend that you do so. We're like the double digits for amount of listens, so that's exciting.
Oh.
I don't know if before we start you wanted to shout out the new listeners that you brought in.
Yeah, so over at my work at RJH, the hospital in our city, I have a couple of coworkers who have expressed some interest in the podcast. And shout outs to a few of them, specifically Greg and Stacy and Dana and Eric, Brandon, Ben, Paul. Yeah, I just happened to mention that I was sort of doing this new little project and they all seem very excited. And so now they're listening, or at least some of them are.
The movie we chose to watch this week comes with a tagline of "Anyone can be chosen," which I guess. Yeah. Did you end up watching this movie with your morning coffee again?
I watched it last night with my girlfriend.
That's fair.
Yes, I took a different. The last two movies I watched bright and early in the morning. This one was an exception. My girlfriend wanted to watch it too. I'm
in the same boat. I watched this one at 12 o'clock noon today, also with my girlfriend, who also wanted to watch it. A movie I had never seen before.
Nor I.
We're talking about The Green Lantern. Not to be confused with the 2011 film The Green Hornet, starring Seth Rogen, or the 1999 film The Green Mile, starring Tom Hanks.
Easy to get confused.
Not the 2018 film Green Book, starring Mahershala Ali, or the 2021 film The Green Knight, starring Dev Patel, or even the 1991 film Fried Green Tomatoes, starring Kathy Bates. This is the 2011 film The Green Lantern, starring Ryan Reynolds.
2011, although at times it did seem like it came out in 2001, but we'll touch on that a little later.
Ryan Reynolds, a good Vancouver boy who you may know from such iconic movies as Waiting or Blade Trinity. That was a good one.
I did not know he was in that.
Yeah, Blade Trinity. I think that was the third one.
It sounds like it. Trinity 3.
I remember it briefly. It was all right.
Okay.
So yeah, any first impressions on The Green Lantern?
Well, as sort of the most basic way I can put it is I liked it. I did not love it, but it was all right. I'm sort of going into this having recently watched a lot of superhero movies. I sort of took it upon myself to watch sort of all the movies in a particular like universe. So I watched all the Batman movies, the Val Kilmer Batman, George Clooney Batman, all of them. And I also watched all of the X-Men movies. And I guess those kind of maybe warmed me up to this film because there are a lot of bad movies in both of those series. I'm thinking of New Mutants, Batman and Robin, Batman Forever is also not very good. And so I think I just sort of had the right mindset going into this movie, having previously watched other notoriously bad superhero movies, especially when you compare them to some of the caliber of films that have come out lately. Thinking of all the Marvel movies or the Christian Bale Batman movies. I guess sort of what's well known about the Green Lantern is that it's not good. And there's some terrible CGI, which I agree is definitely in this film. Yeah, what are your basic thoughts?
I just wanted to say that your microphone sounds much better.
Yes.
Get that out of the way. The Green Lantern, a DC movie, so that falls into the category of the Batmans you were mentioning. The only thing I really knew about this movie, besides Ryan Reynolds, was the Green Lantern, was how badly he trashed the movie. So going forward to him in Deadpool 1 and 2, there's that iconic scene, I think it's towards the end of the second Deadpool, where he travels back in time and shoots himself in the head when he picks up the script, the Green Lantern script, to stop himself from starring in that movie. That's how bad it was. And I'll touch on this when we talk about like what we're giving the movie score
Hmm.
wise. But I had such low expectations for this movie, but I was surprised at how much better it was than I would have thought. It
Totally.
wasn't great.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I liked it as a movie. I wouldn't say it
Hmm.
captured my attention. There's not a lot of positive things I would say about this movie, except that it did surprise me.
Totally. I am the one thing that I will say the the big part that's fairly notorious for this film is the CGI, and there was quite a big budget for that part of the film, and it did fall short. And part of the thing that I did notice is the practical effects that were in the film. I'm thinking of the doctor that sort of became disformed, disfigured. What was his name? Do you recall?
The actor's name is Peter Sarsgaard. He was just a doctor. I can't remember his name.
I
I can
can't.
look it up, but that wouldn't be very good.
No, I can remember. Yeah, I don't remember his name, but I like the practical effects that were used on him, and I sort of wish that was used more throughout the film. The CGI did, in some parts, totally took me out of the film experience. It was very jarring and very obvious. Um, yeah, I wish it wasn't that way.
The doctor with his giant face, giant
Hmm.
forehead. I'm thinking about this now. It reminded me a little bit of the Toxic Avenger.
It does a little bit, which is another superhero movie in a way,
In a way, yes.
in a way,
The
in a sort of a far away way.
the budget for this movie I read was $200 million.
Whoa,
It
that is
did.
a lot more than I thought it was. That's crazy.
It's estimated. It's not exactly $200 million. It
Right.
only made 116 million at the box office. So it lost a lot of money, but still, $116 million is a lot of money.
I mean, I guess, yeah, that's not bad. But if you take into account the budget, that's pretty terrible. One thing I did note that this came out the same year as Captain America, the first Avenger. And contrasting the two, there's really no competition in terms of quality of film.
That's interesting that you bring that up because Chris Evans, who plays Captain America, has the same first name as Chris Pine, known for the Star Trek movies. Chris Pine was in the running to be the Green Lantern, but it just didn't
Oh,
work out.
oh, interesting. Well, I'm glad. I bet you he's glad he did not take the part. Dodged a bullet on that one, I think.
I mean, Ryan Reynolds was the only guy for this role. Going
I
back to
guess.
Peter Sarsgaard, the doctor, whatever his name was, should have done that research. I thought he was underwhelming as a bad guy.
He was a little underwhelming. I will say that the script wasn't doing him any favors in terms of his ability to perform. The script was like very lacking. There was no engaging dialogue at all. It would have been hard for anyone to pull it off, given what given the script they had.
A positive, I would say, though, is the origin story they had for him. I really like when they give both the hero and the villain an origin story.
Hmm.
A positive, like a movie that does that really well, is the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man and William Dafoe as the Green Goblin. Build those
Yes.
two up really well for one epic final fight scene.
Hmm.
In this movie, not so great.
No, there wasn't. There's one thing that, like, when I think back to watching it, there wasn't like a very defined like beginning and end. It just sort of all like melded together. Like there was sort of like the ending where Parallax, the main, I guess, entity, one of the major villains, that doesn't have sort of a human form, if you will. He gets there and he's defeated. I guess that's the end, but it's just like it's sort of there just wasn't a good build up to that, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, yes, I do know what you mean. I liked him as a villain though. Just a giant head.
That's one thing I would say about, again, the CGI. Parallax, I didn't think was done too terribly. I thought he was kind of cool. The beginning sequence, I thought was pretty engaging. I thought it was very action packed and fairly believable. Parallax, when he was more like humanoid, he looked a little silly, like not all that intimidating. But it was very it had me engaged. It was a very good way to start the film. Like the first 2 minutes, I was like very like, whoa, what's going on? Like I'm excited. I'm paying attention. And then there was just like that big middle section where it's just kind of blah. And oh gosh, what's his name? The main actor in this movie. What's his name?
Ryan Reynolds.
Yes, Ryan Reynolds. Yes, his like beginning, his origin story or whatever, his like being a pilot. That whole pilot thing was so boring and poorly written. It was just not interesting at all. I just wanted them to get to him being Green Lantern
It was
already.
very unnecessary. I wonder how much money they spent on that flight scene.
Yeah, that flight sequence thing, which it was stupid and not. It's just like a. We don't want to see that sort of action. We want to see superhero action, not him flying around in a plane. It's just not that interesting.
And then like his nephew's birthday, and we don't see them again after that. It's like,
Yeah, that was very superfluous.
yeah, there was a lot wrong with the script. We don't need to get
Hmm.
into it, but apparently Ryan Reynolds and the director uh, didn't really get along in the movie. Ryan Reynolds had nothing good to say afterwards, which is probably why he poops on the script so much over the next
Yeah.
10 years.
Hmm. Well, let's talk about maybe some of the things we liked about the film.
Okay, I think I already did.
You did? What did you say? Well, give me the cliff notes.
Um, the movie was, I mean, the main villain, like we talked about, was fine. The origin story was fine. CGI was fine.
Yeah. I guess it was just mostly just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, nothing really stood out as like, wow, that was really, really good.
There wasn't any moments either I found like where I was like, wow, that was really bad. I was just kind of like, oh, that wasn't that great. Because I can't help but compare it to movies that I saw, like I was saying, other superhero movies that I watched recently that were just terrible, like New Mutants, where half of the things they said were the most cringeworthy thing I've ever heard. And the action sequences are the most boring thing that could ever happen. Or X-Men Origins Wolverine, where every action scene is stupid and every one-liner is stupid. Like I wasn't like in this movie. I wasn't like rolling my eyes constantly. It was just kind of like,
Yeah, I mean, 2011. I tried to qualify it as a movie. Like we haven't really seen many superhero movies before
yep,
2011, but I mean that's not really the case. I mean they have all the Batmans, a lot of the X-Men movies. Like there were superhero movies
yes.
to draw on.
Especially the first two X-Men movies are fantastic compared to this. Like I know there's a couple little cheesy moments, but especially when you compare those X-Men movies to the other X-Men movies, those movies are very good and they did a very good job with those, and those were released like in the mid 2000s or maybe even early 2000s. I don't remember the exact date, but much before this film
Wasn't
came out.
X-Men 2000? Wasn't that from the year 2000?
Well, I don't think it's called X-Men 2000. It's just called X2. I don't think it has anything to do with the year 2000, does it?
I don't know. I don't have it on my research team available to me at the moment. Fun fact about one of the X-Men movies. I don't remember which one it is, but Ryan Reynolds plays Deadpool.
Yes, that's X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I believe you.
Yes, he is in that briefly.
So I mean, he should know. He should have experience being in a superhero movie.
You would think. I think X-Men Origins Wolverine came out after this movie, but again, I couldn't say right off the top of my head. One thing that I thought was interesting that I was not expecting, because again, with this movie, it was kind of like my experience with the one, which is I just knew sort of vaguely that it wasn't supposed to be good, but I didn't do like a ton of research before I went into it. That Taika Waititi is in this movie, and I have to imagine this is one of his earlier performances. I didn't even know he was like acting this
That
in
was very
2011.
surprising to me as well. Him in an American accent. Uh,
Yes.
he was probably one of the things I liked about the movie the most for him.
Yeah, I wish he was in it more for sure.
Definitely. I mean, was he in for the Concords or just like a writer?
No, no. I think he might have just been. I think he was just a writer. He was. Yeah, no, he's definitely not in the show or anything like that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, he's great. It probably I should have done more research before this. Um,
Well, that's part of the charm of this. Is like we don't need to give every fact about everything. Just kind of like we're like average Joes, just watching movies, giving our takes.
yeah, I think a lot of stuff we can just say and but say it in such a way that is believable. So people listening will be like, "Oh yeah, no, I believe that this was Taika Waititi's first ever movie." I doubt it.
Yeah, if we put enough sort of confidence in what we say, I mean, we can make people believe whatever we want. We have power. We're in a power position, Josh.
I can confirm that X-Men Origins Wolverine was 2009.
Oh, before this.
Before this, yeah, just got a slip of paper passed to me saying 2009 X-Men Origins
You
Wolverine.
put assistant to work, and they
Yeah, it was
brought you
actually a
what you
cat.
needed.
Yeah.
Oh, a cat. Yes. Well, you have many of them there, so one of them is bound to be able to bring you facts, I guess.
Are you mad that I've stolen your thunder with how many cats I have?
Well, we're equal now. We're equals, and I do feel a little threatened. Um, it was out of the blue. I wasn't consulted on this third cat acquisition, but no, we'll see how it pans out.
It was very out of the blue. It wasn't really planned.
It just sort of happened.
Just sort of happened. They're like, "Oh, you should come up to Duncan and get a cat." I'm like, "Okay, let's do
Who,
that."
who's they?
Oh, just to rescue a couch and
So a rescue out of couch and just contacted you and said you should come get a cat.
well, like we applied for it and stuff. So I guess it wasn't really out of the blue.
Right.
Um, okay, last thing I'm gonna say about this movie before we get into scoring.
Okay.
I really like looking at who's in the movie, actor wise,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of just you know
Hitting this.
seeing how famous these people were at the time or ended up. So obviously we have Ryan Reynolds and Peter Sarsgaard, who we've talked about. Blake Lively plays the love interest for Ryan Reynolds. They actually met on this movie and are now married and have many children together. You may recognize Tim Robbins.
Yes.
Uh, Sha-
I was very, just quickly, I was very shocked to see him in this movie, and I'm a little disappointed that he did this movie, but he probably didn't know how crap it was going to be when he decided that he was going to do it. Because I love his performances in like The Shawshank Redemption and Mystic River. And I mean, hey, his performance wasn't bad, but it was just a little shocking.
well, a DC superhero movie. I mean, you got to jump all over that.
I guess so.
Mark Strong. He was in it briefly as one of the Lanterns. You may know him from the Kingsman movies. British
Hmm.
dude. He probably does other stuff.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. He was one of like the main Lantern guys. His performance is actually pretty nice, I will
Like I
say.
think the main Lantern guy, but Angela Bassett, um, the other main female, played again very briefly um, a scientist who ends up getting destroyed pretty bad.
Hmm.
Poor Angela. Yeah, Taika Waititi, his American accent. What else was I gonna say about that? Oh yeah, have you ever heard of the Bechdel test?
The Bechdel test. No, I
Yes.
have not.
Okay, so the Bechdel test is when in a movie two females talk to each other, two named females talk to each other, but their conversation can't be about a boy.
Oh, yes.
So
Right. Okay.
I don't think this movie passes the Bechdel test. There was like two females in the movie. They didn't talk to each other at all.
No, they did not.
The movie we watched prior to this, The One, I feel like that movie also did not pass the Bechdel test.
Absolutely not.
And then Prime, 100% no, would not have passed. The only females in it were really like the wives or girlfriends, but they didn't talk to each other.
No.
So the next movie I have to find a movie that,
Passes that test.
does
Yes.
that.
Well, we absolutely. Okay. I would like to point out somebody who was in this film that you did not mention.
Okay.
And I am curious, have you been watching the Book of Boba Fett?
I have not been.
Okay, well, the man who plays Boba Fett is the Lantern who dies at the beginning of this film.
Okay. I Googled him and I didn't recognize him, but he does. Yeah. Okay.
He also plays Jango Fett in the Star Wars prequels. He reprises the role, some 20 years later in the Book of Boba Fett. Just a fun little fact.
That is a fun little fact.
I'm all about fun little facts, you know me.
Okay. Let's get to the scores.
Let's do it.
Let's wrap this up.
Wrap it up.
Originality. What did you have for that one?
Well, it's a little hard to score points on originality when it's a book, excuse me, a film based on a comic book. And so I mean, it's a superhero movie. There wasn't anything I haven't seen before, even given the year it came out. I mean, I I give it a 2.
Two. I gave it a one for the exact same reason. I don't know. Maybe I was just feeling a little less gratifying
Mm-hmm.
after watching the movie. One, because yeah, uh, because yeah,
Because
ending.
yeah, the ending, again, like I said before, it just didn't feel very defined. And even after, like, there's always that moment after they beat, the villain, where where they tie up the loose ends. And also they happen to tease a second Green Lantern film at the end of this. And all of that just fell super flat. Ending, I would also give it 2.
I gave it a three. It was nice. There was decent effects, but again, very predictable.
Mm-hmm.
This whole movie was pretty predictable, pretty, a cut and paste movie. You knew what was going to happen. Expectation, the next one. This is I'll give the score first
Okay.
this time. Uh, I gave it a 6 because the expectation for this movie was so low, considering how much Ryan Reynolds has pooped on this movie,
Mm-hmm.
that I was coming in thinking it was going to be hot garbage. But it wasn't the worst thing I've seen in 2022. Um, so I gave it a 6.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards basically the same score. I Yeah, I just heard that this movie was a pile of garbage, and I didn't think it was a pile of garbage. I mean, it wasn't good. I did like it for its own sort of quirky ways, like the ways that it passed a test for me, and that test was, is it a bad movie that I can still enjoy? There are bad movies that you can't enjoy, there's no redeeming qualities, but this was not one of them. This was not a great movie, but there were some redeeming qualities, and so it passed that test for me. I will give it a 6.
This is a movie that you didn't have to pay attention to for the almost 2 hour running time. You could sit on the couch, turn it on, and do something else, and still get the gist.
That is very true. I wasn't like, yeah, you don't need to be very attentive to this film. I will say that it was probably a little too long.
Yeah,
Could have been a little
2 hours.
shorter.
I mean, cut the birthday party.
Yes, that could have definitely not have been there.
Acting, I gave it a 4.
Mm,
A lot of scenes when two people were talking to each other, it just seemed awkward, kind of tough to watch. I guess that could be more of the script, though. The writing wasn't great,
yeah.
but there was a lot of good actors. So you think maybe they could have done something with it, but a 4.
Yeah, there was actually quite a bit of talent in this film. But again, yeah, the script wasn't doing them any favors. I'd probably be a little bit more generous with my score. I'd more of like a 5.5, 5.5, something like that. It didn't blow me away, but there was definitely some standout moments, especially from a few of the performers. I thought they did quite well, and then it was sort of, yeah, laced with problems with dialogue, like between two characters, and some poor performances. Okay, let me just go with a 5.
What are the odds that Boba Fett landed on Earth? Okay, so score out of 10. What would you give this movie out of 10?
I don't. I don't want to. Okay. I. You know what? I'm just gonna say a 4.5. It wasn't. I don't want to try. I'm trying in my mind. I'm trying to give this movie a little bit too much credit and being like, yes, but more and more I think about it, maybe it wasn't quite as good as I want it to be. So I'm gonna give it a 4.
26% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that Rotten Tomatoes is you know, the end all be all of scores, but I gave it
Mm-hmm.
a 4.5. It's
Okay.
very actiony, predictable,
Mm-hmm.
you know, boring in parts. Like you said, the movie was too long. This would have been a good 90-minute movie. Get
Yes.
Jet Li in as Green Lantern, a 90-minute movie. I would have given it a 6.5.
Easily.
Yeah, not a lot of trivia for this one. I did a little bit of research.
Mm-hmm.
IMDb. The only thing I could really find was who turned down the Green Lantern role. I already talked about Chris Pine, Bradley Cooper, apparently,
Oh,
Justin Timberlake. That would have been
that would have been weird.
an interesting movie. And then
Yeah.
Mad Men's own John Hamm.
Oh, there's a lot of big names being tossed around there.
Well, a $200 million budget for a DC superhero movie. I mean,
Yeah.
they probably paid Ryan Reynolds a lot of money.
Yeah.
They
Definitely.
probably paid Blake Lively about half because, you know,
The movie
yeah,
industry. It's a
exactly.
problem.
That's a
Yeah.
whole other podcast.
Totally.
Yeah, and that was the Green Lantern. I mean, we probably talked about it a lot longer than I thought we were going to.
Yeah. Me too. For a movie that didn't have a whole lot going on, it seemed we did seem to ramble on, didn't we?
I just wanted to hear your new mic.
Well, I do sound a whole lot better. I will admit that. And hopefully the listeners also appreciate it.
Maybe in the editing bay, I'll tone you down a little bit so that I stand out once again.
That's a good idea. That's what I would do.
Any last thoughts about the Green Lantern 2011? Still waiting on that sequel.
Still waiting on the sequel. I would say uh, go into it with low expectations, and you'll be a little bit surprised, and it's just not as bad as you think it's going to be.
Have your phone handy. You're gonna want to look at Twitter, maybe a little
Yes.
Instagram during
Yes.
some parts, but decent. 4.5 out of 10.
Hey, it could
Could
be
I make
worse.
a movie that's 4.5 out of 10? I don't know.
I don't think so. I've seen some of your short films, and I mean,
Yeah, I have no history of doing anything like that, but yeah, wow, another another good talk,
I would say so.
another good talk with Josh and Jesse.
Jesse and Josh talking about stuff.
Next movie will be mine. I'll probably go superhero, keep that superhero theme. Maybe try
Okay.
to be a little inclusive. You know what? I might just do The Green Hornet, another 2011 movie, superhero movie with Green in the title. I think it's on Netflix. I might change my mind on that, but maybe that's where I'm leaning towards.
I have a whole slew of films in my mind that I'm thinking about checking out. I might do some research and see which one is the best fit for when it comes back to my turn again.
Well, I don't want to speak for the audience, but I, for one, am very excited about what the future holds for Your Mother Ate My Dog, the podcast.
Me too. 100%. Do I sound excited?
Yes. And on that
I
note,
feel like
oh, sorry.
I mean, I hate to halt your ending there, but I feel like I've been monotone this whole time. Have I been monotone this whole time?
I think you've been no different than how you normally would sound.
Okay. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Well, you can use this time to get excited if you want.
Okay. Well, let me wait. Let me just get into the right mindset. Can I get like some background, like maybe some meditation music as I sort of get into the zone? Go ahead.
Okay, wait.
Hey, I'm excited. I'm going to leave that to you to edit that music in.
Okay, consider it done.
I was kind of hoping you would do it like, you know, with your own voice just then,
Yeah,
but I was
like that. I
oh,
don't.
oh,
Yeah, that.
oh, okay. Now hit me with that again. Hit me with that again.
Um.
Okay, yeah, I'm excited. That's all I needed. Excited.
Okay. Well, on that note, thank you so much for listening. I say that every time. This is the third time I've said that, but I really mean it this time.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, it's good to get it with the real one at the end there.
Let the credits roll. Have a wonderful uh, time away from the podcast.
Okay. Bye.